Day 2 of Cleveland Browns training camp is in the books. And yes, what went on during practice was pretty good, but those who got to see after practice were in for a show. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. If you are not an everyday or a part of the everyday crowder, now is the time to change all that. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Do not miss anything. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Day 2 down to Greenbrier in West Virginia, and Cleveland Browns training camp for the day Friday is in the books. We're going to get to all of that. But what none of us knew, and obviously anybody in attendance didn't know, was that a couple of players who are not necessarily participating in practice yet, PUP list for Nyheim Hines, and certainly NFI list for Nick Chubb. Both players, Nick Chubb certainly working out to the side today with Myles Garrett and certainly with David Njoku. We understand, what Nick's doing there. But Nick Chubb and Nyheim Hines actually took to the field after practice and ran some sprints. And we know Nyheim Hines is a lot closer to participating, certainly, than Nick Chubb. And the reviews on Nyheim Hines were, good and fast, and which is what you want to hear, and certainly positive. We all know what he did, in his late role with the Buffalo Bills a couple of years ago as return man. We know that he is a former 4-3 guy coming out of North Carolina State. So certainly encouraging signs for somebody that can be a factor for the Cleveland Browns in the return game, and certainly in the receiving aspect of the running back position. But, and we live in this weird era now, back in the day when guys were rehabbing from injury, pre-social media, you didn't know what was going on, basically so-and-so, and then all of a sudden they were back. But now, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, kind of get snippets. And, those snippets are usually put out either by the player, by their camp, or by the rehab facility that's working with them. So they're certainly altered to make sure that things are looking good. Nobody's going to put up anything and say, wow, look how crappy the rehab's going. He's never going to play again, So certainly they try to put out and try to spin and put everything into a positive light. But Nick Chubb was out there sprinting. And, those who got to see, and there is no footage available, the Browns were pretty adamant about that. Trainers were out there. Owner Jimmy Haslam was out there. And, apparently Nick Chubb looked really, really good as far as his overall speed. Then there were some drills being done by Nick Chubb showing off his cutting ability, football in his hands. I do not know. And if you remember what I said, the last couple of days, look, how I feel and when I think Nick possibly could or should return. But if there's anybody in this world you cannot doubt, and I told you the story certainly about talking with my friend Matt Waldman about where he was already, how far down the line he was in his rehab, when he had the major injury at University of Georgia. And to see, is he really trying to do this again? Is he really going to pull this off again? And it's certainly, some men are made of, a lot of things, and, Nick Chubb is apparently just made of a lot more. But a great possibility for Cleveland. I will continue to, give some pause and hesitation. If you go back to the summer of 2021, you'll remember Odell Beckham Jr. blew out his knee that year later in the season, certainly, then Nick Chubb blew out his in week 2. And, Odell was doing a lot in practice. It was doing a lot in practice, wasn't really doing contact type of stuff, was a lot of team things, where there was no contact involved. But the Browns still went the cautionary route with Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. didn't play that year week 1. That would have been the road game against Kansas City Chiefs. Did not play week 2. That would have been the home opener against the Houston Texans. Did return week 3 against the Chicago Bears at home. And, that was somebody, and the injury wasn't, it wasn't 2 surgeries. It was only 1. Yes, Odell was injured later in the season than, of course, Nick Chubb was last year. but it was 2 surgeries. But either way, this is hopefully signs of something really, really positive. Again, if you're me, I think the Cleveland Browns are playing 18, 19, 20, hopefully 21 games this year, which would mean a run down to, of course, New Orleans, Mardi Gras, all that good stuff for the Super Bowl. To think somebody is coming off a second ACL injury, 2 separate surgeries to repair the knee injuries, and to think that he's going to be able to give you 21 games, I think it's, fool's gold to think that it could possibly happen. But again, you can never count out Nick Chubb, Nicholas Jamal Chubb. It's, for Nick and for just to go through it. And it's tough, certainly. But the Browns running back group, we know Nyheim Hines is going to be a part of it. Jerome Ford, and it looks like Jerome Ford, who was not there yesterday or was not there today. It seems that, Jerome Ford will be back very, very soon and has some special news to share with everyone. I think we all get the understanding of, maybe, Jerome Ford maybe has a nice welcomed addition to his life. If that is the case, of course, congratulations to Jamal Ford and all parties involved. But if you can get Nick back, and, even if Nick doesn't come back and you can say and we know he was never really a full tote the rock guy, 25, 30 carries. It's just not the way the Browns handled it. But I mean, if you can talk and, when Nick comes back, whenever it is, I'm not going to say it will be week 1, but say it is even week 1, you can start him off gradually, 8 to 10 touches, then maybe, start to, get to that 12 mark, then maybe 13, 14. It's a huge, huge, asset for this team, for whenever he does come back. He is such an emotional, basically support animal for this team. And, he has been a guy that has been here since 2018. He has been a huge part of this entire team, the way it is currently constructed under the Barry Stefanski regime. Huge fan favorite, pillar of the community. It's funny because, and like we all agree, we're all fickle, right? Browns fans definitely fickle. You get, once one guy gets under your nail, and some of them never get out. There's certainly guys, that people feel certain ways about. And we still have people calling out Coach Stefanski yesterday saying he's going to keep playing calling duties, and everybody, there ain't a man, there ain't a woman, there ain't a child in the Cleveland Browns fan circle that has anything negative to say about Nick Chubb. So, the hope continues, that Nick can be a positive part of this team when he can find his way to return. But, I think everybody was kind of in for, this news today was a little bit of a treat, hearing that Nick is pretty far down the path. Hopefully, it's just going to be continuing getting that strength. We saw the squad videos last week, which was about 75% of what Nick Chubb is capable of. But either way, it looks like Nick Chubb, we can hear that somebody's crushing the rehab process. Another thing to know that maybe it is truly happening, and for Nick happening again. So kudos to Nick Chubb. Hopefully we'll see 24 sooner than later. We're going to move it on here now. We're going to talk a little about the linebacker position. Certainly going to be an interesting one to follow here as the summer goes on and beginning down at Greenbrier before it comes back to Berea. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. As always, we appreciate everybody who makes the show their first listen every single day. If you are not part of the everyday crowd, now is probably a good time to step into the VIP circle of the everyday crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And the show is always available and always free wherever you get your podcasts. We certainly mentioned, positive day, Nyheim Hines, an unexpected Nick Chubb post-practice workout that some were unable to videotape or film or video, but we're certainly able to witness. And, what we hear is probably the reports are true that Nick Chubb is certainly, spinning into a positive direction. Got to see some 11-11s today. And, for me, one of the biggest things, and, who knows, tomorrow maybe it could be, is going to be who's going to get those reps. We know exactly who the mic is for this team. Certainly it's going to be Jordan Hicks. We know certainly who the will linebacker is going to be, and that is certainly Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. But in base situations, and we know the Browns don't want to play a lot of it, they would like to play as much nickel and dime as possible, certainly. But who could possibly be that, third linebacker? Tony Fields, hasn't been on the field a ton for his first 3 years. Got to remember he was part of the same draft class as JOK. But, Tony Fields has had a lot of impact in his career. He has had a lot of impact. A couple of years ago in Houston, we all remember the monster game. That was Deshaun's first game as a Brown. Certainly a major part last year. Colts game, scored a big touchdown. He was the first linebacker to get reps in the base defense with Hicks and JOK today. And, for Tony, it's a contract year, final year of his rookie deal. Kind of guy who just bided out his time. You remember Anthony Walker was here, Sione Takitaki was here. And it was always like it got to like the second or the third linebacker injury before Tony Fields kind of got an opportunity to go out there and, play more. Tony Fields at University of Arizona was a really good linebacker. Tony Fields at the University of West Virginia with that weird, 4-3-3-5-3-3 defense that they played it was the odd spot for him. 4-4-3. Take it back. Very odd spot for Tony Fields to be in. He was much better as just a traditional linebacker in a traditional defensive formation or setups, lineups when he was at University of Arizona. But Tony, it's an opportunity, and he's made plays. He's been a huge factor in limited opportunities, and we'll see how it works. But it does bring up how this is going to work, because I'm not sure how many linebackers the Browns are going to keep. But my belief would be is the number's probably right around 5. So that means right off the bat, we know 2 that are staying. Jordan Hicks is obviously staying. And we certainly know that there is a really, really good chance that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is staying. Wink, wink. And then, Bookie Watson, where he was drafted, does not necessarily guarantee that he is going to have a roster spot. Devin Bush, the legacy guy, his father, former Cleveland Brown, great Michigan Wolverine, former number 1 overall pick. Certainly Tony Fields fits his name into there as well. And then there was one of the surprises, of last summer that just played continuously and consistently, was a very, very good special teams player for this team, and that was Mohamed Diabate. So now you're in this spot, Mahmoud Diabate, where you have 4 for 3. And Devin Bush's free agent contract, was nothing that the Browns say that all of a sudden he's in Sharpie. He's not. Tony Fields, I think Tony Fields makes this roster regardless. I think that's probably going to work. Tony has been a special teamer. He's been a role player. He's been an impact player at times. So they're now 3, but now we're down to 2. So it's Diabate, it's Devin Bush, and it's Bookie Watson. Of the 3, if I would say anybody's probably the safest, my guess would probably be Diabate. Just from what he did last year, and he's already got the experience. He's got the one-up on everybody that he's played within the Jim Schwartz system. He has certainly played in the Bubba Ventrone special teams system. So then now we go from 2 to 1, which would be Devin Bush and Bookie Watson. It's not really a money factor, and it's not, the Browns, money's there, and for everybody who's and I see the cap concerns, you just don't know football. I mean, you don't know the economics of it, and it's a really, really difficult discussion to sit down and have in the format of a podcast. But there are so many ways that the Browns can create money. Zadarius Smith, Jedrick Wills, right off the bat. You're not right now have not restructured Deshaun Watson's contract in any way, which gives you what is known as rollover cap, and that you can apply to the next year. And I do believe that number would currently, the way it stands, would be $25 million. So whatever anybody says, they're 54 over or 45 million over next year. As of right now, technically you're shaving $25 million right off that number to begin with. So, there is a lot of economics to it. And when you have a whole bunch of Ivy League guys sitting down, crunching numbers, the numbers are always going to work. That's just the way it goes. So it is interesting with the linebacker position. And again, I talk about this, and I talk about it in the fact that, these are guys that maybe aren't going to play a ton. And that's where the weird and ironic part and the irony of all this kind of comes to a head, is because, obviously JOK is going to be on the field as much as possible. Jordan Hicks is going to be on the field as much as possible. But I do believe special teams is going to have a big deal with it. Devin Bush at this point in his career, former first-round pick, are the Browns going to just treat him like a guy who is in a competition for a roster spot with everybody else, saying, look, who really shows well on specials, it's going to be crucial here, because it is. It's going to be crucial for Tony Fields. It's going to be crucial for Mahmoud Diabate. It's going to be crucial for Bookie Watson. It's going to be crucial for Devin Bush. Can you contribute outside of just being a traditional linebacker? Because it's not a huge thing that the Browns are essentially looking for, because, those short yardage goal line sets, those are what they are, and you never know how large that number can be. Your 1st and 10s, the Browns want to get to the 2nd and 9 as fast as possible. 2nd and 8, start getting faster coverage guys in there, getting more pass rushers in there. So it was a really, really interesting scenario. I don't think the Browns are going to keep more than 5. Bookie Watson being a solid pass rusher, that may give him a little bit of a one-up, for his basically case to make this linebacker unit, make this roster, as he did have 10 sacks last year as the defensive player of the year down at Mississippi State. But it's a battle, and it's going to continue to be a battle. The Browns are going to be in a spot, where they're going to most likely move on from a linebacker, and they're not going to get them back. Probably any one of these linebackers can be moved on. Devin Bush, could possibly certainly be a trade candidate if the chips don't fall for him the way he's hoping to. I'd love it. A great story. Got to spend some time, I've gotten to talk with Devin Bush Sr. a lot over probably the last decade or so. For those who don't know, I was a diehard Florida State fan. I remember the 1993 national championship team like it was yesterday. And one of the good things about social media is I got to, reach out and get to spend time and have conversations with Devin Bush Sr. Always for me, it makes me feel like I'm a kid again. Granted, at the time I was, 19 years old. But it's certainly going to be interesting as this linebacker unit battles it out. And it should be a really good battle because, I don't know how much JOK is going to play this summer, if at all. I don't know how much Jordan Hicks is going to play in preseason games this summer, if at all, which means it's going to come down to, mano y mano, the 4 of them, Diabate, Fields, Bush, and certainly Bookie Watson getting every opportunity to, basically go before the judge and plead their case. The judge being certainly, of course, defense coordinator Jim Schwartz. But it's, the Browns are extremely talented. And, I don't think people understand, like, people speak well of the Browns outside of Cleveland and speak well about the team, the way it's constructed, this roster and all that. But once you really start to dig into these positional groups and you start to bring up names that aren't possibly going to make this team, you realize just how deep the depth is. And when we rattled off the top 6 linebackers on the Browns currently, and basically with the premise that one of them is not going to be good enough to make the final 53, it has been yeoman work here for what Andrew Berry and his staff have done to put this roster together. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Nobody go anywhere. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who are actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. Look, even if you're not looking for a job, get yourself on LinkedIn. You don't know what's out there unless you were physically in the game. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're just not looking. And you're certainly looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 85% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Segment 3, we are covering day 2 Friday in Greenbrier down in West Virginia of Cleveland Browns training camp. Nick Chubb put on a little bit of a show. and got to show where his progress is at from his rehab. Nyheim Hines looking closer and closer to start being a major part and a contributor, at least a participant in Cleveland Browns training camp. So it's a linebacker position, 4 guys battling for 3 jobs, certainly going to be interesting. Some thoughts from today's practice. Myles Garrett interviewed, and it was fun. It's kind of funny that you asked this question because, and I'm not exactly sure who it is, and I'm not making fun of him in any way whatsoever. But the question of, Myles, do you think you have a bigger target on your back than, now, I'm sorry, because you are the reigning defensive player of the year? And you go back to week 2 against the Tennessee Titans. I'm sorry, week 3 against the Tennessee Titans, where Myles was just basically moving to the left, moving to the right. And everything Tennessee Titan was, oh no. And it reminded me of that old Stuart Scott line from back in the day at, Sports Center. Oh, mama, there go that man again. And, as Myles shifted and just waved each way, the entire Tennessee Titans offense was like, nope. Look, it can be no bigger target on Myles Garrett's back. Everyone within the league, they know the capabilities of number 95. Now, it's not even so much that the target can be bigger for Myles Garrett. The scariest part is, Myles probably left a little meat on the bone. You got to keep in mind there was about that 2 to 3 week stretch where he was out there and basically, his arm was dangling. And everybody, he didn't have any numbers. He didn't have any numbers because he was basically out there one-armed. But the scariest part is that Myles can technically put up bigger numbers. And it is not even so much anything that he can do or that he will do as far as preparation, film study, this, that, or the other thing. It'll be the development of a player like Alex Wright. It could be Zadarius Smith putting together a better year this year than he had his first year here in Cleveland. It could be, Owusu-Koramoah playing a full season and being more of a consistent contributor by playing more. The development of a player like Mike Hall, adding a Quentin Jefferson who is a good pass rusher from the interior. To think that, Myles can be better statistically, it could possibly happen. It most certainly could happen. There is no question about that. Because I've said many a time, and I will continue to say, this defense should be better. It is year 2. Everybody's more comfortable with each other. Jim Schwartz is now fully engulfed with the talent of everybody he has. Also has this lovely, great athletic ball of clay in Mike Hall, who comes with some technique that you don't normally get in rookies who turned 21 in June of their rookie year. Certainly the development of Alex Wright, bringing in the Quentin Jefferson. So it can go either way. Myles can get less attention as a pass rusher and put up bigger numbers, or teams can still try to throw the same amount of attention onto Myles where everybody eats. The Alex Wrights of the world, the Zadarius Smiths of the world, the Owusu-Koramoahs of the world. Let's not forget Elijah McGuire was a very, very, thought of draft prospect coming out of Missouri. And that's not even including the interior guys. Deshaun Watson did participate in 11-11s today. That's the first time he's done that. Did not do that at all in the spring, early summer, as far as OTAs, as far as mandatory minicamp. Not in the 11-11s, nothing really ripped, not letting any, nothing really flying down the field. There was certainly decent velocity, decent zip on, throws on air, or maybe, air 7-on-7 where nobody's touching anybody, a lot of underneath stuff. But also you do need to keep in mind that some of this stuff is now being installed. So, it's not that, they're, taking it easy on him. It's not out there, with the arm and we have to worry about everything. And there is some installation going on here. So when you are installing, you're not going out there and just gripping it and ripping it like a system that you've been in for 2 to 3 seasons. So, certainly going to watch that, and Deshaun was, talked today about, we still ask these same questions. Are you fueled by your naysayers? Are you fueled by your critics? And if you didn't see, Deshaun, kind of had a colorful answer in what his response to all that was. Deshaun Watson just wants to win football. And, I think, as far as those who dislike him. As far as those who question the contract, Deshaun wants to win a division for this team. Deshaun wants to win playoffs games for this team, maybe even get them to a Super Bowl. We'll never have to say a word again. That will be the greatest. I've had enough of you talking about me. And look, for those, if they haven't changed by now, that's fine. But it's, and the only final thing that will probably put them to bed or put them to rest or put them to quiet would be ultimate success. And look, Deshaun just wants to go out there and be a part of this team and win. And, I think that is such a great thing with this team because that is the collective thing you hear from any one of these guys when they speak individually. It's never about me. I want to win. Miles already probably cemented into the Canton Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's about getting there, trying to get into that Super Bowl, possibly winning that Super Bowl. Joe Batonio, all these guys, for the young guys, they're buying into, hey, I want to be part of a great team. For the old guys who have had success when this team wasn't good, now I want that team success that I haven't had. Like, that's the only part of my career I really haven't gotten to experience. And that's what it is all about. So interesting day, and certainly one of the highlights of the day certainly happened after the practice. Nyheim Hines and most certainly Nicholas Chubb showing that they are, certainly putting in the work and, ready to contribute hopefully sooner than later for this team. I am Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, they're a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. Join the filthy animals. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.